portion of our agenda, which is the state of the district.
Turn this right over to Dr. D'Antoni.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So happy to be here in company with you tonight. As you know, as part of the work that we do at the district, it's something that we add to the agenda with the CEC's approval to share the state of the district with you in terms of the performance of our kids across the year. So we typically do this 3 times a year, just after the diagnostic assessments have been completed. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is where we currently are as a district community, connected to a couple of the assessments and the priorities that we've set for ourselves at the district level, which live in our district comprehensive education plan. So I'm going to get going and share. Now, this is pretty lengthy. I will, I'm not necessarily, there are slides with text. I'm not going to necessarily read from every slide, but I'll just share the basic points with you so that you can get a good picture of where we're going. And I do want to start by saying, you know, that we have made some progress across the beginning of the year from the fall assessment to the winter assessment, and that's due to the hard work of our building leaders and our staff. But having said that, with all the progress we've made, we know we have a lot more work to do. So here we go. Priority 1, we're going to talk about our early childhood reading goal. Priority 2, we're going to talk about the chronic absenteeism goal. I'm going to share the current state where we are. Priority 3 is around reading in grades 3 through 8. Priority 4, while our goal for priority 4 is not directly related to math across grades K through 8, it's more an algebra 1 goal. I'm going to share information with you about math in general too, as well as I share around what our current state is and with algebra 1 currently. And the last final goal is around parent involvement. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a survey that we recently shared with our district community and some of the results currently. And that survey is still open. So any of our families that are here, any parent leaders that are here, I encourage you to share with your local community to make sure that we get as many pieces of feedback as possible, because we will be using it, as I'll talk about later, to support our next steps. But priority 1, in alignment with the Chancellor's vision this year, is that all students learn to read well. For us at the district level, we have seen progress toward improving reading proficiency across the district. Overall, we did see a 4% change in student performance. This is for our all students subgroup from the beginning of the year till now. Our Hispanic learners, a little over 3% positive change in performance from those performing on or above grade level. For our Black learners, over 4% positive change in students performing on or above grade level. And the one thing that I do also want to, students receiving tiered support is part of our goal. We did see that children that are part of our MTSS work, which is over 2,000 children across the district, but this in particular for K-2, we did see 11% change for those children that are receiving those additional tier 2 or tier 3 services. So that work is having an impact. We do have more work to do there. But one thing I did want to celebrate is that nearly 78% of our general education students in grade 2 are currently performing on or above grade level, which is really, really you know, significant achievement. I did want to highlight that for the community. Now, when we look at our overall data from fall to winter, you'll notice that our bars are definitely showing a change in overall outcomes. Our orange bar is from the fall, our blue bar is from the winter. The area on the left, you'll see that is the well below benchmark. We do want to make sure that that blue bar was going down, which we were able to see some of that happen there. And the blue bars on the right side for at benchmark and above benchmark, we do see that there was a positive change on that end as well, a little over 4%, as I mentioned earlier. Our goal with our district leadership team was that we were going to get to a space of 5% improvement as a district. Last year, around 56%. Right now, if things remain consistent with last year, we would be just under what that goal was. But in working with our schools and continuing to push with our staff, we're hoping that we can achieve that goal by the end of the school year. For our Hispanic learners, we did see progress here as well, particularly where where we're looking at our well below benchmark, we saw a 7% change, 7+% change there, as well as a 4%, as I mentioned, just under 4% change for those that are at or above. This particular subgroup, we are falling a little bit below our benchmark goals for mid-year. So we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to continue to do to support this in just a moment. But we have made progress, but we need to make more progress moving forward. For our Black learners, we did see progress here, as I mentioned earlier. This is currently just under our DCP target by about 1.25%. If patterns continue, I do believe that we will meet our goal for our Black learners by the end of the school year. So we are on track with making the progress necessary, at least for what we established as a minimum goal for the start of this school year to now. But you can see how there is a change in performance from the beginning of the year to this point for our Black learners. And again, just a reminder, this is K-2 currently. For our Asian learners, we did see, and you'll notice our bars are pretty consistent in terms of the growth across each of these subgroups. For our Asian community, we are at 58.3% of students performing at or above grade level, to 62.3%. So about a 4% change for our Asian subgroup, much like our other subgroups as well. For our white learners, we did see the greatest change with this particular subgroup by a little over, just under 9% from the beginning of the year to winter. You can notice, as I said, the trends are pretty consistent across each of our subgroups to date. This particular subgroup did grow at a different rate than the others. For our students with disabilities, we have made some progress. We grew by around 3% to around 38.5% of our students that are with special needs that are currently meeting benchmarks or at or above benchmark. We've seen similar pattern here. Obviously, this is at a lower rate than our other subgroups, but we still have still more work to happen here for our students with disabilities. Our English language learners, we did see a positive change from those that are performing well below benchmark by almost 8% from where we were at the start of the year to where we are now. We did see growth from the beginning of the year to now in terms of at and above benchmark as well by around 5%. This is a subgroup that is one that's important for us to continue to monitor, because we do have a significant percentage of our population that are new to the English language. And our children, regardless of that, are still in the space where we have to engage in these assessments to see where they are. So lots more work to be done with our ELs. We typically perform pretty well, comparatively speaking, to the city as a whole, but even saying that, we still have more work to be done. Now, what did we learn from this? We learned that we still have some more work that we're going to continue to do within our core foundational instructional programs. This year, as you know, Heggerty and Foundations are the two programs that we're engaging in for our children in kindergarten, first and second grade. We're really excited about the work that has been happening in our classrooms. We're visiting our classrooms as collective building leaders. We're stopping into rooms to see how those programs are being implemented so that we can make strategic changes inside of our schools. We're offering coaching supports from our district team. And we're building capacity through a training series, which is referred to as LETTERS. It's Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. As I shared with you earlier at the beginning of the year, we have nearly 400 folks in our district that are participating in this training. And we're really excited to see where this is going to be bringing us moving forward. But that's where we are headed moving next in the district. Chronic absenteeism is our second area that we're prioritizing in terms of all students are physically and emotionally safe. There were a number of things that we could select within this particular area. And we identified chronic absenteeism because of its relationship to student performance. And we know that when our kids are not in school, it's difficult for them to sustain and keep up with the work. Currently, we have seen a reduction in where we were. So in the left-hand side, you'll see all of our subgroups. The next column is our kids that are chronically absent through January, followed by the next column, which is children that are chronically absent through February. And the reason why this changes is because there are some children that are at risk. So not all of these children are fully chronically absent. It means that maybe perhaps in many cases, which we know that the flu and the COVID-19 have still existed inside of our schools. So we're well aware that that contributes to our chronic absenteeism. But at the same time, it's really important for us at the district to really emphasize with our families, aside from those things when we know our children are ill, how do we make sure that we're consistently ensuring that they're in school? So that more often than not, we are in the buildings learning on a daily basis. So this 2% plus reduction is something that we're looking to see keep happening between now and the end of the school year. December and January were rough months when it came to student attendance. And I think at that point, we did had a number of cases where illness was quite a big issue in our schools. But aside from that, we have a number of things that we are going to continue to do as a district. All of our schools have teams that are directly responsible for focusing on student attendance. Those teams are engaging in outreach to our families. Our district team is visiting all of our schools, focused on engaging these teams to make sure that if there are any supports that are needed, and for us to provide some of those supports to the teams and to the school communities to bolster those attendance rates, including our attendance coordinator who's been pushing into schools, connecting with children that have been chronically absent, to engage them in things like yoga, mindfulness classes, and such, to really build that community inside of our schools so that our kids are there on a routine basis. And the next part of something that we'll be rolling out this month, we have recently engaged in the process of purchasing STEM-based opportunities for all of our schools. These programs are going to be directly related to supporting children that are currently at risk of being chronically absent, to invite them to participate in a variety of different courses that we're going to make available to them. Things like digital photography and podcasting and things of that nature, to really bolster the interest and promoting those high attendance rates that we're seeking. So that's currently where we are with our chronic absenteeism data and goal. All students are priority 3 is about all students having a high quality academic experience. This is a really important goal for us, as it touches on a number of things that we're trying to get accomplished at the district level. One of them being our work in and around MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support, things that are happening across all of our schools. As I mentioned during the first priority, that it has yielded a positive impact because of that work, and we're going to continue building on that as the year goes on. In terms of our children in grades 3 through 8 in iReady, we have seen about over a 9% change in student performance from the beginning of the year to now, from fall to winter assessment. For our Hispanic learners, a 9% change from fall to winter, and for our Black learners, a 5% change from fall to winter. Now, I'm going to share the other subgroups. The reason why I highlight these 3 is because this is what we shared at our district leadership team, and prioritize these particular groups because of patterns of performance over the past several years. Now, in terms of overall progress, you will notice here that the bars have differentiated quite a bit from where they were in the fall. Our blue bar for mid or above level has changed quite a bit, over 8% from where we were in the fall to where we are now for our all students population. And same for our children across the other areas that are 2 grade levels below, 3 grade levels below. We are seeing an upward trend for our children. Carly, would you mind just moving that bar just so that I could, so I don't have to keep looking down? Thank you. So one particular piece here that for us at the district level, we are projected using the iReady assessment for us to be around 57% of children being on or above grade level by the end of the year, and stretch growth to be around 64.5% by the end of the year, which would be under what our targeted goal was. Similar types of scenario as last year, we are performing at a little bit of a higher rate than we were last year at this time, and our performance was accelerated by a greater percentage than what you see here. So what I am anticipating is that children that are performing in this 1 grade level below range will be able to be accelerated up into that early on and above grade space by the end of the school year. For our Hispanic learners, we have seen progress here. This is a subgroup that we're going to continue to focus on as the year goes on, and certainly into next year and the years moving forward, as we still have some gaps in performance here. With typical growth, we're projected to be at 38% by the end of the year, which would be under our projections for, under our expectations for progress towards our DCEP goal, with projected performance if our students reach stretch growth to be around 46%, which would be a little bit under what our goal is for this school year. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to be paying attention to in just a moment for this particular subgroup. For our Black learners, we also did see progress, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago. About 5% growth in terms of mid or above, on or above grade level. We did see a significant change in terms of children that were 3 or more grade levels below by over 9%, which is really important. We do want to make sure that we're continuing to elevate our students from those positions of multiple grade levels below towards that space of proficiency. With stretch growth, our Black learners will achieve around 53%, which would allow us to meet our goal for this particular subgroup. Our white learners did grow from 37% to 48% based on iReady. iReady projects that will be over 60% of our white learners will be on or above grade level, with 69% of our students if they achieve stretch growth. Now, what stretch growth means is that they reach more than a year's worth of growth during the year, and many of our students have done that already by mid-year. So we're looking forward to seeing how this all works out by the end of the school year, but patterns suggest that we are on track to make some improvements. For our Asian learners, we did see an increase here for our Asian population. We went from 47.5% of our students on grade level to 59%. iReady projects that our students will be at 69% proficiency, with stretch growth being around 76% by the end of the year if we are able to push our students to that space. For our students with disabilities, we did grow by around 6% from where we were in the beginning of the year to now. We did see a reduction of children that were in that 3 grade levels below space by around 11%, which is significant. We want to continue to work towards that end. iReady projects that we'll be around 26% of our students on or above grade level, which would have exceeded where we were last year on the state assessment, as well as 34% if we achieve stretch growth, which would be in a space where is beyond where we had shown performance rates over the years for our students with disabilities. So we're looking to continue to grow in that space for these learners as well. Now, for our Ls went from 4% to 9%. iReady projects that we'll be at 13%, with stretch growth around 19%. Last year, we were around 17% of our Ls were on or above grade level. What's really very important for us as a district community to continue to focus on is that many of our students that are new to the English language are within their first 3 years of service in District 25, which means that we have a lot to do to really accelerate their language learning and to meet their needs. Language proficiency does take 5 to 7 years for our students to reach that expectation, but we do all that we can to accelerate that space so that they are proficient readers throughout our schools. Now, what does this mean in terms of what we've learned? We know that our work in MTSS is something that has been having an impact, similar to our children in K-2. Our children in 3 to 8 have also grown by 10%. From where we were in the beginning of the year to where we are now, which is really important. We do know that based on our iReady data, vocabulary development and acquisition and comprehension are still areas that we need to attend to as a district. And the focus of our work is really on the close reading of text So what we are doing as a district is engaging our building leaders and our teachers in professional learning that's connected to really allowing our kids to dig deep into what the text is saying, and more importantly, what the text means. So that's what we're currently concentrating our work on for professional learning. We're continuing to unpack a program that I mentioned to you at the start of the year, is known as the CLAVIS Intervention Program for our ELs. This just began in January. We have been visiting our schools, and we're seeing that our kids seem to be really connecting with it, as well as our teachers. And we're looking forward to seeing how that's impacting learning as the year goes on. We're going to continue our learning walks, specifically with the focus on close reading of text. We were fortunate that we were just in a building 2 days ago, Mr. Mango? I don't even know what day it is anymore. 2 days, yesterday, visiting classrooms with a specific focus on close reading, so that we're all in that same space learning and growing together to support our kids. We're going to continue to build the capacity in the area of MTSS, so that our teachers and our schools are making really strategic decisions around the needs of our students. Part of that work is our district team going to be visiting schools, really checking on the systems and structures that are in place for MTSS, and then offering the support and resources necessary if adjustments are needed. One of the things that we're also doing is engaging in strategic conversations with our schools around what their data says, and more importantly, what are we going to do next based on what it says. And those conversations are happening now with our building leaders, and we're really excited about engaging in these discussions to make sure that our kids are improving. Our multilingual learner service administrator, Michelle Lee, is currently also working on providing those supports necessary in terms of professional learning for our teachers, and tiering their supports for our ELs in our classrooms. Priority 4 is around ensuring that our kids are college and career ready. With a strong pathway, a plan and pathway to economic security is part of the Chancellor's priority. For us at the district level, I do want to share with you briefly before I get into the college and career readiness part of this goal. But we know that mathematics is a really important element of building towards college and career readiness. We have seen progress across our schools in mathematics from the beginning of the year to now. But we do have a common trend that is present. When we look across grades from 3 to 8, we have a significant number of kids. It's over 40% of our children that are in this space of 1 grade level below standard, which means that we have plenty of room there to grow our instructional practice and supports for our kids between now and the end of the year, to ensure that they are on grade level by the end of the school year. Thus far, we've seen a 6% change in students performing on or above grade level for all kids. Our Hispanic learners, we've seen an 8% positive change in performance. For our Black learners, just under a 10% positive change in terms of from where we were in the beginning of the year to now. What I do want you to just take put your eyes on in terms of overall, the percentage of children at 2 and 3 grade levels below has shifted pretty significantly from where we were in the beginning of the year to now, by around 12% from where it was. So we are making that growth towards that space of proficiency. But when we go through each of our subgroups, you're going to notice that there is a significant percentage of children. So for our Hispanic learners, 47% of our children are in that 1 grade level below. We shifted from a space of 34% of our Hispanic learners 3 grade levels below to 17%. So we are making progress here, but we still have this space of learning that we have to continue to support, which is something that our building leaders are engaging in certainly as we speak, but as the year has gone on as well, which is why we're seeing progress for our kids. Similarly, for our Black learners, same type of scenario. We're seeing a very similar pattern across each of our subgroups. Whoops, did I pass the other ones too quickly? What did I do? Okay, I clicked the wrong button. But you're going to see a similar pattern across our subgroups, where our children 3 or more grade levels below is shrinking, and the other areas are growing across our district. Now, this brings me to our map growth data. So what we did, we made a little bit of an adjustment as the year went on, as our goal is directly related to children and their performance in algebra. So in the past, we had been giving the iReady assessment for our kids in 8th grade that were taking the Regents, but it was not an apples to apples assessment in terms of making sure that we knew exactly how the kids would be performing against Algebra 1 Regents type questions. So we did make a shift in winter of this year, so that we can get a clear picture as to where our kids are. So this data that you see on this slide is an indicator of where we currently are. Now, on the right-hand side, you see a little bit of text there that talks about where our kids performed, and 80 or above on the New York State Algebra 1 Regents last year was around 54%. This year, where we currently are, is around 68% of our kids that are in what we classify as the high achievement, high average achievement range, which also translates typically into children that are performing at levels 3 and 4 on an assessment. So right now we are well above what that space was from last year. And this includes, albeit we have a lot more work to be done here, this includes our targeted subgroups, who have shown a 12-13% difference from where we performed last year to where we performed this year. Now, these are different children, different different circumstances, all of those things being equal. We are showing a different range of performance with this assessment than we did last year. So there's some promising work happening within our Algebra 1 space. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and what we're going to continue to do to support our schools. We're fortunate we've added a math specialist to our team who has been working with our Algebra 1 teachers to really bolster the work that they're doing, specifically focused on MTSS. And sometimes we think MTSS, we go right to tier 2 and tier 3, those intervention supports. But this is also about what we're doing in classrooms for our children within the instructional core and the instructional program in tier 1. So that is the big concentration of the training that our teachers have been engaging in over the past couple of months. And we'll continue to do that through the remainder of the year. In addition to that work, we're going to be connecting with our newly added staff member. Her name is Beth Eaton, who has joined the team. We'll be extending this professional learning and training supports for our teachers in K-8 to support some of those needs to get those children, particularly those that are in that 1 grade level below, to that proficient level as we move through the remainder of the year. What we do know is that the algebra strands, geometry strands, and just a general focus on problem solving is something that we do need to continue to build as a district community. Yeah.
Before Dr. D'Antona goes into the parent engagement goal, I just want to make sure that we say thank you for him for putting together such an amazing presentation of the work that we're doing across the district. And for families to know that this presentation will be available on our district website. And the reason I say this to you is because when we talk about finishing the year strong, it's about parents having an understanding of where we are in our overall work in ELA, in math, and in chronic absenteeism and our parent engagement, and finding your space to engage with your school in a different way, to leverage some real targeted discussions about your students, especially this month as we're getting into parent-teacher conferences, to talk about where is my child in terms of ELA on iReady. And depending upon where your child is, that's what drives the conversation. So if they're 1 or 2, if they're 2 or 3 grade levels below, it's about what are the tier 2 and 3 MTSS supports you're giving to my child during a cycle of learning. If we're tier 1, what are some of the supports that are happening in the classroom, and how can I support that at home? So this was really important for us to make sure that the community is getting this information. Following this work, I will be going around very similar to what I did at the beginning of the year around my 90-day plan and my listening and learning tour, really getting this information out to parents so they are engaging with their schools to make sure that we're finishing the year strong for our students.
And I do want to add on to that, and I thank you very much, Dr. Dentona. I don't know what we would do without you, but this is what makes our district different, apart, and above the other districts, because we appreciate the fact that you and the district office and the superintendent do follow up. You give us the states of the district. We need to be on top of things like that. And I hope the community understands that this is a very valuable thing that you're doing for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I also want to say we can't finish our strong without parents, right? So that's why this is so important to us.
Yeah, and just before I finish up this last one around parent engagement, the parent engagement goal, these types of things, and Superintendent Mango just mentioned it, but as your schools are engaging these conversations with you as well, because they are going to be doing similar types of presentations around at the individual school level, what kind of questions does it raise for you? Every time I look at information, it makes me ask another question, which is, the blessing and curse about data, I think at times, is that it allows you to keep asking. But it's important to ask, especially on behalf of your own children, for those that are receiving those supports, are they working, aren't they working? Those are really important questions for you to be able to ask so that we can really get, the best services possible for your kids. Now, this last goal is one that we added on a little bit later in the fall, as the new template came out for the expectations around goal setting. And most of the time, our parent engagement work is embedded in our goals, but at this particular time, we created a new one, which is around improving parent involvement in the district. So one of the things that we did was survey. We worked with our President's Council, and I thank our President's Council President, Francis Gonzalez. Thank you very much for allowing us to join, and for all of the other PTA presidents that were present to give us feedback on this survey that we administered to our families in the district. We did get over 1,200 responses, so I thank you. For anyone else that's on there, as I said earlier, get others to complete the survey. It does give us a great deal of information. Now, one of the reasons why we landed on parent involvement was based on the school survey from last year, which indicated in a number of our schools, in 25 of our schools, we were below a 90% favorable response rate from our families as it related to being involved in schools with this question in mind, this first one that you see. So during this school year, have you attended a general meeting other than a PTA meeting or school event? So right now, this says that we have 45, almost 46% of our families are indicating no, that they're not doing that. Listen, there are lots of reasons why we can or cannot, but I do think it's important to connect with your schools, to participate as much as you possibly can, and connect with. So part of this particular data set that we've challenged our parent coordinators on is really your thinking around, what are those other things that we're going to do to connect with our families and get them more involved. So we're already starting to see families, our schools open up for First Fridays. We had some started at the beginning of the year, but others now with the restrictions not there as they were at the beginning of the year, are starting to bring our families back into spaces where they can be in schools and can participate in a different way. So I really encourage you to connect with your buildings and make sure that you know about those ways that you can be involved in your child's classrooms. So this is a particular one that was important to us, and we're going to continue to push on it as the year goes on. We had about 10 questions or so, and many of the responses were very favorable in terms of being comfortable engaging with my child's school. Nearly 82% felt that yes, they felt comfortable. We had a number of families or parents that indicated that they either agreed or disagreed. I kind of lump those in with, not to say that they disagree, but I lump it in as we need to figure out a little bit more about why that is, so that they can feel comfortable, can say that I feel comfortable. In terms of, having an opportunity to provide feedback, much like tonight, open it up for questions and conversation around, what is it that you think? What do we need to consider moving forward? It's the same thing that we want our families to be able to do in our schools. Now, why 74% of families saying that they get to do that is awesome, and that's a great percentage. We still have a number of families here that are not necessarily sure they get to do that. So how do we continue to keep those lines of communication open so our families feel comfortable? And I also want to say that this survey was broken down into multiple languages. So we had it in English, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and then I pulled them all together. So we had all of this data that was represented. So we have a range of feedback from our families in the district. In terms of the progress of their children, nearly 78% said that they feel like it's done in a timely manner. 7%, and this was the highest percentage of disagree, that we do need to pay attention to certainly in our schools. And 14, almost 15%, neither agreed or disagreed. So like I said, those need to be lumped together and for our schools to really pay attention to this type of work in our buildings and rechecking, how are we making sure that our families are aware of what's going on with their kids. So it's a good way for us to reconnect with our families to make sure we're doing an optimal job in this space too. Met with parents during parent engagement time. This I can't encourage our families more than I'm going to right now. While again, almost 80% is great, we need to make sure that all of our families know that they can reach out with their teachers during parent engagement time. It's time that all of our schools have built into their program. And it's a great way just to connect, even for a few minutes, to say, how's my son or daughter doing? Is there anything that I need to know, anything that I can do to help? It's a great space for us to do that. We're going to continue to offer those opportunities and engage in that outreach. We'll do that moving forward. And, the idea that around that outreach that I know it's happening, we have over 90% of our families say they are being communicated with, right? So it's how do we make sure that that communication becomes something where it's now not just giving communication, but we have that dialogue. And we're able to not only see a newsletter or an email or get a phone message, but that I can talk with my child's teacher or building leader in a way where the other elements that we just talked about grow as well. Importance of good attendance. This, I'm happy that we're upwards of 85%, and a disagree is low because it is something that we've been pushing across the school year. Again, that neither agree or disagree is one that I would love to change and swap out into that agree space. So we're going to keep pushing towards that end to really promote the understanding around why we're talking about chronic absenteeism, and not necessarily when kids are ill. We know that that's a big part of it, and don't encourage anyone to send their child when they're not feeling well. But it's an important element for us at the district level. My child's social emotional learning needs are being met, and this one is interesting because it connects to the last slide as well. We had almost 26% of our families indicated either they disagreed or neither agreed or disagreed, which ties into this last slide. I'm just going to hop to it because I think it's important. I would like information on parenting and or social emotional learning support. 63% of our families indicated that they feel as though they themselves would like to know more about that for themselves as a parent. And, I raised my hand right away, having a 6th grader and an 8th grader myself. I know sometimes it's, I wonder how many parenting fails that I have in a day, so it's whenever I can get that additional learning, I'll certainly take it. But in this area, social emotional learning support in and of itself, for our families to be asking for that is something that we are definitely going to be working towards moving forward. Nearly 77.5% of our parents that completed it said that they feel their child's academic needs are being met. 17% indicate that they either agree or disagree. Again, we need to find out a little bit more from this survey to get more information from some of our families. Now, this was anonymous, so it makes it difficult to drill down into specific people, but we will continue to keep these lines of communication going with everyone. And then the promptness of responses from our schools, 5% said they disagreed, 18% either agreed or disagreed. Similar comment to the previous examples. Now, what did we learn? This data indicates the importance of ensuring that we continue to build opportunities to promote involvement and engagement. We're reviewing this data as school leaders to make sure that we finish the year strong. Parent coordinators, as I mentioned, are going to be creating goals around this. We've also noticed that our parents requested opportunities to receive these supports. So we are going to be working on that at the district level, but certainly also at the individual school level to make sure that supports are made available so that we can finish the school year stronger and smarter. I love all the iterations of our tree that have changed over the years, and to me, they just keep getting better and better. So, really happy with the progress that we are seeing, but we also know that even inside of the progress, we have a long way to go, and we're excited about that.
You know, and the one thing that we want to say to parents is that this district survey is in addition to the school surveys that are coming out, and we do encourage parents to fill out the school survey. This district survey that we administered, it is anonymous, but we are able to gather information by school. We want our families to know that we come at this through a support lens, which is around based on the needs of individual schools. We'll have conversations with either parent coordinators or principals, just as how we as a district can support next steps based on parent voice. So we don't want parents to think that we come at this through a negative way. It is around how we can get stronger in our goal of increasing parent engagement. So we can open up. Thank you, Dr. Mike. You did a fabulous job as always. And we are here to answer any questions that you may have.
So a lot of data, and again, we are truly appreciative of what you do, Dr. D'Antona. I'm not sure if anyone in the community has any questions. Carly, can you check the chat? I know there were some comments in there.
Just Carmen Persona said social emotional support really stands out as a key focus area. Thank you for the insights, Dr. D'Antona. And then Eden responded, Sana, I agree, and I know that's something that we continue to hear about time and time again in regards to elementary school students specifically.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think we also discussed it once
And
before.
I could speak a little bit to that. So over the next few months, we are going to be engaging with SLTs as well as the community. We are going to go to a district-wide recommended social emotional learning program where we will be able to support our school communities as a district just around building more social emotional supports to make sure that we have that at every single school. And I will say I use the word building and strengthening because they are there, but we just want to make sure that together as a community, we're growing and learning.
Perfect. I'm unable to read the comments from Sana.
MT asked these I'm not sure what that. MT asked these two questions. I understand that not all the schools have the same access to iReady. If it is a tool used for DOE assessment and a good way to allow the children practice their reading and math skills, why is not fully funded without impacting the school budget?
So all schools have access to iReady. If your particular school does not, you can reach out to us, but that is something that Central did provide opportunities for schools to have the practice part of iReady this year, not just the assessment, right? The instruction part and the assessment. So all schools in New York City should have access to that. Yes, in reading and then in Zone for Math. Thank you.
The second question is about the parent chats hosted by District 25. What is the purpose and how and when will they start?
So we have them all the time. Yeah. Individual schools have them, and then when Dr. D'Antona and I do our school visits, very often we will engage in them. Our district parent chats, I know that Esther has been working to engage with parent coordinators to put together parent chats, and they should be starting, Esther, when is the date? Within the next month? Yeah. Yep, so if you are interested in just a district-only parent chat, you can contact the district office, but parent chats have been happening at all schools across the year.
So they should, where could we look?
How will we hear about the district PCs?
We don't,
Oh, parent chats, I'm sorry.
oh, from Esther, you can call Esther,
So it'll be publicized on
and yeah,
parent coordinators, I guess?
yes, it will be posted to the parent coordinators, yeah.
So we asked the parent coordinators for 3 parents to begin for the first one. They have given us that information. We sent out a Google form to see what time was best for the parents that we have. But if you want to join us, send me your information. I'll add your name for the second round.
Yep, so Louis, you'll put Esther's information, or Esther, you'll put your information in the chat. And anyone interested can send Esther her information, she'll put you in the first round.
That's great. So if anyone out there wants to start engaging that way and they have any questions, you could also contact the CEC office. It will direct you. Perfect. Yeah, a lot of interesting things. I think and again, I mean, it was already stated, but I think the new topic to look out for is the social and emotional learning. Like, we've been always looking at the academics. Perhaps it was because of the pandemic, or maybe because of, the changes in technology, but it seems to be an issue that is up and coming with a lot of our students and perhaps even parents. And as parents, we may not know how to deal with it, so it's a good topic. Are there any other comments or questions for Dr. D'Antona regarding the state of the district? Thank you again, Dr. D'Antona. Thank you, Superintendent.